My darlings, have you ever felt the unsettling itch of a forgotten memory tugging at the edges of your mind? Perhaps you're sitting alone, the house quiet, and suddenly you can recall the scent of a place you've never been, or the laughter of a child you've never met. Is it déjà vu, or something far darker, whispering from the depths of your subconscious? Tonight, we spin the tale of Elisa, a woman whose memories, it turns out, were never hers to begin with. Elisa always had a keen sense for nostalgia. Her tiny apartment was a shrine to all things vintage: faded postcards, tarnished gold frames, hand-woven tapestries she couldn't remember buying. She found comfort in the old, the forgotten. It felt as though the items whispered her stories of their past, filling her solitary evenings with traces of lives once lived. But one object stood out: a small wooden box she had discovered at a flea market 3 weeks prior. Its brass latch was intricately carved with an emblem she couldn't quite place, part floral, part something else, something alive, as though the pattern warped slightly every time her eyes passed over it. Inside lay a single spool of blood-red thread. At first, she dismissed the box and its contents, a mere trinket to add to her collection of oddities. But over time, the thread began to haunt her thoughts. Each night, she'd find herself sitting by the dim light of her desk lamp, staring as its glossy surface seemed to ripple like water. And then the dreams began. In her dreams, she saw nothing but that thread, unraveling across fields of whispering grass, winding itself around shadowed figures in the distance, their mouths moving silently in a language she couldn't understand. But no matter where it went, the thread always returned to her, slipping between her fingers as though it had always belonged there. Elisa wasn't the kind to panic over mere dreams. She told herself it was stress, that she had simply been reading too much folklore, watching too many late-night thrillers. Until one afternoon, while working from home, she pricked her finger on the box's latch, a bead of crimson dotting her pale skin, and in a flash, it happened. A memory, vivid and sharp as sunlight, flooded her mind. She was 7 years old, standing in a kitchen that smelled of cinnamon and lavender. A woman, her face soft but unfamiliar, tied that same red thread around her wrist. "This is your anchor," the woman whispered, her voice warm but edged with warning. "Do not lose it." Elisa recoiled, clutching her hand to her chest. That moment, the sights, the smells, the sensation, it had felt as real as any of her lived experiences. And yet, she had no idea who that woman was, nor had she ever stepped foot in a kitchen like the one now burned into her mind. It was just an illusion, she told herself. A fleeting hallucination brought on by the pain, perhaps. But the memories didn't stop. Each time she let her gaze rest on the box, she was pulled again and again into lives she hadn't lived. Birthdays, first dates, arguments, laughter, betrayal. It was as though the thread was a vein, pumping forgotten lives directly into her soul. But the most vivid was one she wished she could forget: the memory of her own death. In this vision, she was neither young nor old. She was timeless, suspended in a shadowy room, draped in pulsating crimson thread. It crisscrossed every surface, walls, ceiling, and floor, binding her body tightly, the strands cutting into her skin. Her own laughter echoed madly in the distance as the thread grew tighter, whispering secrets directly into her ear. Memories of strangers, faces that made no sense, lives that might have never existed. And then she woke up. But this time, she wasn't alone. Across the room, sitting calmly in her favorite chair, was a figure. Their form was shrouded in shadows, save for a single thread, brilliant, scarlet, looping lazily around their gloved fingers. "You found it," they murmured, their voice like silk unraveling. "You've always been good at unraveling things, Elisa." Panic surged within her. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The figure leaned forward, and Elisa's blood froze. The face staring back at her was her own, just older, worn, tired, and scarred. "I'm what you could have been," the doppelganger whispered, "if you hadn't abandoned us." Before Elisa could scream, it was over. The chair was empty. The room, silent. The thread, gone. But the memories? They remain. And, my dear listeners, they are not hers alone. Perhaps they'll visit you tonight, weaving themselves into your dreams, daring you to open forgotten doors. For you see, memory is not a gift, it's a thread. And once unraveled, it can never truly be rewound. Sweet dreams, darling. And remember, it's all just a story, isn't it?